Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to week 13. Hopefully that you're all having a good day after submitting essay number 2. My goal is to get those essays turned around within a week. I want to make sure that I leave enough time for you to revise those essays if you choose to revise. So, yeah, I will post an announcement and an email, and I'll let you know once I have those evaluated and with feedback in Canvas. So what you're going to notice though is those grades are going to be muted, that you won't be able to see them. They're hidden. And so if you see that you've got little notifications but you can't see anything yet, that's correct. That just means that I'm working through them and then I release them all at once. But let's go ahead and take a look at what is going on this week. So we're done with essay number 2. And now we're moving into essay number 3. And I do apologize that it seems like I'm just going essay to essay to essay, but that is, again, kind of how it's how all of our classes are structured. But I don't give you the essay assignment at the end. I give it to you at the beginning. So if it feels a little bit rushed, just know that it's because I want you to know where we're going with the writing. So you'll be able to see the essay number 3 overview here. And, I think if you're ready to kind of wrap your head around where the essay is going to go, like if you're not burned out yet from essay number 2, then really the idea behind essay number 3 is to, after you kind of read the poems from this week and from next week, but to kind of begin to think about the content that this whole course has covered, right? I themed this course around witness literature, and, that's a really broad term. But the idea is that kind of we're getting information from fact and from fiction and from kind of this distinction that you're going to see in Tim O'Brien's article about story truth and happening truth. And, and the essay just kind of asks you to kind of explore some of that, like, and what that means. So as essay number 1 and essay number 2, as open as they were, essay number 3 might be more open than either one of those even combined. So it's generally I don't know, it's just kind of how I like to structure essay assignments, is that I give you a bunch of kind of excerpts and quotes that I really want you to think about before you see the essay assignment. So there are your quotes kind of setting up the essay assignment itself. And then, the task is just kind of review some of what we've read, the concepts that we've talked about, the kind of the lenses that we've used. And then here is your actual assignment, right, for essay number 3, in considering anything that we've read this semester, from the beginning all the way until the day before you turn in your essay, that you explore this connection between storytelling and truth. That's your prompt. You can talk about anything that we've covered in the class. There's really not any need for you to do any outside research. None. If you want to tap into what you used for your annotated bibliography, then you certainly can. If you feel like you want to go and do outside research, you can, but you don't really need to. This essay is asking you to explore this connection in a way that is kind of relevant for you, and in a way that kind of encapsulates all the studying that you've done in this class this semester. So as I often do, I've given you some questions to get you thinking. These are questions that are, again, not necessarily meant to be answered, but just to literally get you thinking, like, what do you think about this? You have an audience, and this is something that is really different. Your audience is someone who has been part of the class, which means you don't need to spend any time summarizing concepts, reviewing story overviews. You don't need to provide any background. You can assume that your reader knows all that information. You do have more latitude with the essay structure if you choose. That's up to you. You can and you're encouraged to use I if it's appropriate for your topic and your approach. You have, of course, requirements, the thesis statement, not a listing thesis, body paragraphs, the references to course material. And so you need to make at least 2 references, but these do not have to be quotes. You don't have to use quoted material. You can, but you don't have to. It could be enough to just refer to Barefoot Gen, or refer to Willie in Homegoing, or refer to one of the poems, refer to Adiche. You don't have to use quoted material, but you certainly can. And the reason is because one of the course requirements for English 230 is that students practice using textual evidence in support of their thesis. Well, you had to do that in essay number 1 and essay number 2. I don't necessarily need to see that skill again. If you want to incorporate it and include it, by all means, but it's not a requirement for this paper. You need to refer to at least 2 sources, and whether or not you choose to refer to more, up to you. Quoted material, up to you. Okay. The synthesis piece, this is basically what you were doing in the annotated bibliography, which is kind of taking the history that you researched and bringing it into conversation with what you were seeing in the chapter of Homegoing, right? And that's essentially what you're going to be doing in this essay, right? Is you're going to be using any of the material that we've been talking about and bring it into conversation with this idea about storytelling and truth, or maybe in single story, or Tim O'Brien's Story, Truth, and Happening Truth, right? So you're bringing these pieces into conversation with each other and not just looking at them in isolation. Obviously, kind of so what? You have your snapshot here, which basically gives you the overview of the assignment. The big thing is you have, with this essay, you have to hit your 5,000 word mark. So what you need to do is take essay number 1 and essay number 2, the word counts for those, add them together, and subtract them from 5,000. And that will tell you what your minimum word count is for essay 3. Yeah. Okay. The final draft is due Friday the 13th. I know, it's just kind of a dark time. You have a grace period until Sunday. I know, it was not intentional for me to have it on the Friday the 13th, but it just was it's just the date that works out. Grace period is on the 15th. Just for reference, the last day of class is Friday the 20th. And then our grades are due the following week. So we'll talk more about that the closer we get. But that's kind of what you're looking at for timing. Okay, that's essay number 3. So everything now that we're going to be doing is kind of gearing us up towards writing essay number 3. You'll have the first part of this week, a bunch of short essays, but they're all really foundational. This first one by Tim O'Brien called Good Form is from his book, The Things They Carried. This one sets up his theory of story truth and happening truth. It's not very long. It's like a page and a half. The second one is not going to make sense until you read the first one. But this is an interview that he gave where he further breaks down that concept of story truth and happening truth. The Bedazzled Gaze, this is I gave you just an excerpt of the essay itself is about 20 pages long, so I just gave you a brief excerpt, literally very, very brief, where this author talks about kind of witness literature and how we believe history when it's told from someone who is experiencing it firsthand. And that kind of ties into this story truth, happening truth that we see from Tim O'Brien. And the last is this piece that I thought was really interesting, kind of about brain science and what happens when we read stories. And I thought that's kind of an interesting perspective to think about when it comes to storytelling. Oh yeah, this is not the last one. Sorry, and then poet William Hyann, who you'll hear from next week, talking about what it's like for him as a poet writing poems about the Holocaust even though he was not a survivor. He was not in Europe. He did not experience the Holocaust. So just kind of thinking about who gets to tell stories, and what that does for us as readers. We talked a little bit about that with essay 2, but this one kind of dives a little bit deeper into that concept. So again, that's just his interview. So those are kind of the front load of the stories, right, of the articles. And then really our literature focus for this weekend next week is poetry. It's all poetry. And guess what we're not going to do? We're not going to dissect it. We're not going to take it apart. We are not going to, take a fork and knife to it and kind of cut it into little bits. Our goal is to just read poems, share poems that we like, talk about why we like them. That's really what our goal is here. So start here on the page that says poetry. Start here. And then there are several pages here that just kind of give you a brief overview of poetry. What I like about these pages is that they're not going to tell you something you didn't know, but they're just going to reinforce the idea of why we want to talk about poems in the first place, especially since a lot of us are intimidated about poems. This page about how to read poetry I thought was especially interesting because they talk about what we typically get wrong when we try to read a poem. And then I do provide for you the analytical tools for those of you who do like to dissect a poem. And there is a place for that, right? And that's not what we're doing. That's not my purpose in this class. But if you enjoy that, then these are some really useful tools that you can use to really analyze and break down poems on that level. You have 2 engagements that I'm looking for this week on Discord. The first is about poetry, and you'll just kind of follow these steps and then head over to the poetry channel under weekly engagement, that has been moved back up. So you'll see it kind of emerge towards the top of the list there. And you're going to post there. And then your second one is about O'Brien and just kind of starting to think about, what is it about story truth and happening truth? What do you think about that? And to post your thoughts there. We do have writing territory this week. And your writing skill is asking questions. Some folks do that very naturally in their writing. Some folks don't. So the goal is to try and practice that. It's due by Friday. And then, oops, there we go. And then, that's it for this week. So really your goal is to really kind of jumpstart thinking about some of these larger concepts for essay number 3. My goal is to try to get essay number 2 back to you as quick as I can. Probably within a week is my guess. Yeah. And then we will begin holding conferences about essay number 3 next week. As far as conferences for this week, if you would like to go ahead and meet, we can do that. I have conferences Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, Thursday night, and Friday afternoon. So if you would like to come in for any reason, you're welcome to do that. I would encourage you when it comes to essay number 2 to not look at your Google Doc yet until I have returned the essays officially, because otherwise you're just going to see some of my feedback but not really know what it means yet. So, okay, I think that's it. I hope you have a great week. Go read some poems, enjoy them, share what you like about them on Discord, and I will look forward to seeing you there.